Hi! So I wanted to do a video today about spiritual ego, and I felt this was an important one to do because it's actually something I've only just grown out of or growing out of now. Because I think on this journey or any kind of evolutionary journey or awakening, we kind of go through these different stages. We go from regular 3D lives and experiences, and then we start to wake up and we find all these great spiritual things, and they kind of pacify us for a while, and we start to get what I call the spiritual ego. And there's so many different ways that this manifests itself and holds us back as well. And I feel like it's almost a necessary stage in a way. I think nearly everybody will go through the spiritual ego. I definitely went through the spiritual ego. I think people will go through it to different levels and be in it for certain amounts of time. Some people might visit more fleetingly, and some people will do the whole lifetime in spiritual ego, And I think, I remember Ramdas saying something along the lines of that he, went away to the mountains and became this really, really awake person, and he still didn't feel like there was something missing. He wasn't quite fulfilled in some way. So he went back to his old life to fulfill his karma. And like he did that after he'd awoken spiritually. Now, I don't really believe in karma per se. I believe karma is more kind of the wounds and the conditioning and the patternings that we were born to work through. But I don't believe it's kind of like, oh, you did this and you killed someone, so you're going to have to die this lifetime. And I don't believe in that kind of karma, but I do believe in sort of the patterns that we have to clear, being our kind of what you would call karma. And it's interesting that he said that, because I feel this is what we all sort of have to do. I feel this is where I am at the moment, and it's sort of like you die twice. You die to your old self when you go into the spiritual ego, and then it's like you die to your spiritual ego, and that's your kind of real death, and that's your real rebirth. And by spiritual ego, I kind of mean spirituality, I guess. It's almost like another way to pacify yourself and to not really have to deal with the pain of not being in your union inside and outside. So, and it's also about waiting for kind of a magic bullet to kind of save as well. Like, if I meditate like all the time, or I sit and chant this thing over and over again for 15 days straight, this thing's going to just magically appear in front of me. And I've done all those kind of things. Maybe not chanted for 15 days, because I've never had that kind of patience, but I've done all the kind of instant manifestation meditations, the subliminal messaging. I think in my short time of spiritual ego, I delved into a lot, because it's the kind of person that I am. I sort of did, I try everything to solve the problem. So I've always been like that. It's why I've gone crazy on all my on most of my connections, because I've just wanted any way I can to kind of sort it out and either bring it to a head in some way. So I'll try every possible technique. People must think sometimes that I literally am crazy. But it's just like I need to try and work through things and understand things, and I literally try every single avenue. So I'll try like the being vulnerable, then I'll try the boundaries, then I'll try, and in the past I've tried so many different things. Even within spirituality, I've probably tried, so many different areas and avenues of different healing modalities and coaching and chanting and meditating and different yogas, and I've really dipped in and out of a lot of things and tried a lot of things to understand and find an answer to what I was going through. And I've definitely stabilized from that a lot. But it's also, there are different, that's why we all have different experiences for different reasons, because I do believe, and I've always believed, that I've been here to kind of experience a lot of things so that I can help with things down the line, so I can understand, even with my connections. I've been a runner, I've been a chaser, I feel like I needed to understand every aspect and go to so many different people and experience so many different things so that I could collate all this knowledge and wisdom and then kind of make sense of it within myself and then go out and spread that, if that makes sense. So I'm not the kind of person that's just gone and tried this one thing, like say yoga, and done it repeatedly for, I've really been drawn to try out so many different things and methods, and it's given me a kind of really good base of information and experience as well, that I know that I've tried so many things, so I can understand what people go through more, and I can have more of an understanding to more things. But anyway, I've kind of walked off topic a little bit here. But the spiritual ego, so it's things like that, and it's still ego because it's still really trying to pacify ourselves. And also there's the spiritual ego of thinking that you're kind of better than somebody else as well, because you've got all these amazing gifts and you're so in touch with spirit. And then there's all the victim stuff and the healer stuff of like, I can tell you your future because I'm now intuitive. And then they're like, oh yeah, I need your help, so tell me my future. And there's a lot of that going on as well. And, let me like heal you, and, oh, I need healing so I can't heal myself. And there's a lot of that goes on as well with spirituality. And, these are things that I'm sharing with you. I'm not judging people who do this or have done this. And I have done all of these things myself. That's what I'm saying. I've been a healer. I've given readings. I've been intuitive. I've started to get in touch with my guides. And I've gone through all that stuff like, oh, I'm so special because, I don't really think I was actually consciously thinking that, but subconsciously, I'm so special because, I speak to guides, I have a direct link to God, or I can heal people, or I can read for people. And I was always reasonably conscious with it. Like even with readings, I'd try to give people their own power, and I'd be like, you can do this, like these are your lessons in the situation so that you can help to understand them and to move forward. So I never tried to take away people's power, but I was still in some way thinking that, I could help them with their life better than they could help themselves. And, some stuff is useful. It's like, where do you draw the line on this stuff? Because obviously when people first wake up, they kind of need to walk through certain experiences to be able to, even understand things. You need to learn them from others or read them. So there are different levels, and I think we all know in the moment what's right for us. Sometimes we might need to read all of that stuff because we just need to start understanding and putting pieces together, and then the time will come when you can kind of wave goodbye to all of that stuff, because you realise that actually it's just loads of other people's opinions, and you need to start to formulate your own. But it has its time and its place, But it is just being really aware of the spiritual ego, because it can last for a while, because I think it has a better way of tricking us sometimes than the regular ego, because the regular ego, people can be quite aware is ego, whereas the spiritual ego, I feel, is almost more hidden and undercover in a way, because it always feels like you're doing such a good thing or you're evolving. And the thing is, you start to get lighter and you start to be able to manifest stuff and have all these like energetic highs. I mean, I know when I was doing loads of spiritual stuff, I was going very high, but then I'd have a crash and then I was going very high. So obviously it kind of feels like it's working, so it's more hidden. Whereas with normal ego, I think like you're always pretty much kind of realizing that there's something that needs to happen to change your life. Whereas I feel like with the spiritual ego, you start to see the changes. So with manifesting, for example, it seems very much like it's working because you ask for something, and then it kind of sometimes just show up, and it's like, wow, this really works. So you really start to feel like you're working on the right path. But by asking for stuff, you're still not really fully realizing that you have the power. It's like you're still asking that source outside of yourself. And also very often the things that you ask for are perhaps not things that, they can keep you stuck as well, because they're still very much attached to certain ideas. And so really, if you even got them, they wouldn't really fulfill. And your higher self knows this really, but so it's always a bit hit and miss manifesting, I feel. But because it works some of the time, it's a very convincing one to think that you're just not quite got it, or you've just not quite got it right, and that's why, And it's and the same with the kind of law of attraction stuff of, I'm just going to forget the bad feelings. I'm going to focus on only the good feelings. I mean, I was really wary of that. As soon as I had a friend who was really, really into law of attraction and would try not to think negatively about anything, and it just never resonated for me ever. And then, more recently, I kind of understood why, and I delved into that more and really worked on finding the answers for that. And it's kind of what I always felt. It's like you need to really embrace the shadow and the dark and the unhappiness. Like, you need to be happy with where you are right now, and you need to, not happy, but you need to embrace where you are right now to be able to move forwards and out of it. Because if you just ignore stuff and you just try and focus on this positive high, it's always like this kind of roller coaster of emotions and things that are, because you haven't really fixed the underlying problem, you're just trying to avoid it and skirt around the edge. So the thing that's creating it in that, issue is never really been addressed or really felt or experienced. It's sort of been brushed over, so it doesn't get time to integrate. It just kind of gets brushed off, and then it resurfaces, and it keeps coming back and back and back and back and back. And people get into these really long cycles of stuff, and they're like, oh, I'm just not thinking positively enough. So then, because they saw some kind of benefit from it, they can keep going back, and you can get stuck in that for so long because it sort of seems like it's working. It's kind of like with the readings, where you get enough information that's so scarily accurate that it keeps drawing you back in for more, because they have a gift, but the outcomes keep not happening. So it's like, what's going on here? Like, I know they've got a gift, so that amount of stuff they can tap into as part of source energy, it's quite easy for people to get scary accurate stuff about someone's present and their past. But then why does nothing ever turn out like they say? Especially now. I think in the past maybe things could be a bit more accurate, because people tended to stay on one particular timeline, and people could see their present energy and then probably make a good guess at what will happen in the next, few years, and then possibly be right, and there'd be a fair chance. Whereas now, I mean, gosh, we're shifting timelines and jumping timelines and collapsing things and changing frequencies so quickly and evolving so quickly. The chances of being able to tap into someone's tomorrow are unlikely, let alone a year's time, because we're so multi-dimensional now. And in the past, we didn't really have as much access to that. But now, this level of evolving, we're just so all over the place and changeable that there's just, I really feel no way. And people can really make any guesses. It's why you notice that people used to be a lot more right in the past, and now no one's ever right. I spent a couple of hours the other day. I've been really interested in readings and stuff. I always wanted to get to the bottom of it years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago. And I just looked up all these really main psychics that work for celebrities, and they'd all made these predictions on these psychics, and every one of them said something different. Every one of them was mostly wrong with the odd right thing, and it just really highlighted it for me. But there's so much accuracy in the current that it can blow people away, that it's almost like a kind of trap of, but they knew that. How could they know that without knowing me? So, maybe this wasn't right because they got the timeline wrong, or I did something to change it. So it kind of keeps you in a perpetual merry-go-round, and sometimes it can take a long time to really step out of that and be like, actually, this really isn't manifesting much good stuff into my life. So they're just a few parts of the spiritual ego, but also, the act of kind of thinking that you can go and save somebody or heal somebody, or that you need healing from somebody, or that, you know, because then there's still that kind of victim mentality hanging around in the spiritual ego as well. And then there's the kind of saving mentality, that you can kind of save people. And there's just so much going on there. And definitely, like I said, all this, you know, I'm so special now that I've got this, it kind of really feeds, because to really evolve, you have to almost kill off your identity and your individuality, really. It's not that you can't still be who you are, but really in your soul, in your true soul, we are all one soul. So really, the more we strive to be, you know, individual, and to be cultivate our own kind of identity, we're kind of feeding in separation consciousness rather than feeding into unity consciousness. And in many ways, the spiritual ego feeds even more into this consciousness than the regular ego, because it's very much about being special because you have a gift, or being special because you can read people, or being special because you're a healer, or, you know, it's almost a bigger cultivator of identity than regular ego. Sorry, this video is turning out to be really long. It's because I don't write notes before I do them. I just kind of have an idea and I just go. But these things actually breed as much separation, if not more, as before, you know, as pre-spirituality. But I do still think it's a really important phase. Like, it's sort of something, it's a rite of passage, isn't it, that you have to go through this spirituality ego stage to kind of really just realize that neither is actually getting you, you know, anywhere to being ultimately fulfilled. And that's when you really kind of die to the pair of them, really, I think. I feel that that's the stage that I'm reaching now. Is I've been through that spirituality ego, and I feel like I'm dying to that now. So it's like the real death now. It's like I'm dying to my identity, and I haven't died to it yet, but I can feel that's what is happening right now. Because real oneness is kind of being able to understand the oneness and the unity, and not kind of constantly try to breed the separatedness of it, which is very much kept alive with the, you know, look at me, I can do this, and I can activate this. And, you know, I see such things about, like, oh, I can give you this like ascension energy toolkit, or I can give you a union burst, you know. And I just look at that now and I think, wow, because that's stuff that only we can do, you know. Sure, we can speak to somebody and be listened to and have a discussion with somebody so that we can, you know, come to more awareness and deeper awareness and start to shed more layers. But someone can't just wave around over you and make you ascend. Like, it just doesn't work like that, you know. It's just, it might seem like it from the outside because maybe something shifted, but that was because you really wanted to shift inside. Like, you wanted to shift. So, you know, this experience presented itself and it kind of almost looked like it was an outside force, but we have to make the choices to do this stuff and make the decisions to do this stuff within. And that's why, you know, I used to actually do coaching, and I still have a couple of clients that I love doing, and, you know, it's so rewarding and fulfilling. I love doing it because we learn from one another. Like, we both learn from each other. But I'm constantly questioning the best ways that I can even do that. And it's why I kind of took a back seat from all that, because I know that I was doing a lot of stuff from my ego. Obviously at the time I didn't realise, but you know, I was doing a lot of stuff like I knew more than the person, or would help them make decisions on things, or tell them how to, you know, maybe handle a relationship thing. And the thing is, I don't know their soul, they know their soul. For example, what if as a reader you saw their relationship wasn't going to work out with somebody, so you said, oh, I can really feel intuitively this relationship isn't going to work out for you with this person. And so that person skipped that relationship completely, and they missed out on so many lessons and growth that they would have got from being with that person, that their whole, you know, meeting the one for them takes an extra 10 years, whereas they could have got to it much sooner by going through this, you know, experience that was never meant to work out. And I'm not saying, you know, that's just a very loose example, but that's a case of me being able to see something but not really knowing what's best for their soul, because if they're drawn to a situation, they're drawn to it for a reason. And really, I think all that we can do is kind of guide people through and bring them to their own awareness and their own understanding about themselves, and, you know, enable people to make their own choices, really. And that's where I've changed a lot, because sometimes you can see stuff really clearly for people, so you want to go in there and say, no, but do this, this. And I know I did that, and that was my own ego as well, of wanting to be right. You know, subconsciously I wasn't, you know, I obviously just thought I was helping people, but subconsciously, you know, my ego wanted to be right, it wanted to be the saver, you know, it was feeding into all of that ego consciousness, and, you know, I know better for them than they know for themselves, and, you know, things like that. And as I've grown to realise what that is and be even more aware of my ego, I've not been able to do that anymore. So it's actually kind of made me change up everything. Sorry, this video, I never do long videos, and this one is mammoth. But yeah, like, there's so much more for me to say on this, and I really need to start doing better notes, because then I get really tongue-tied when I come on, and I still don't really love the video process. I always write so eloquently when I write about these stuff to people, and then I come on video and I'm like, oh. But yeah, just basically to be really aware of the spiritual ego, and there's so many ways in which the spiritual ego can show itself, and I haven't gone into them all, but it's just being really real with yourself. That's what true ascension is, and what true awakening is. It's being really real with yourself, like questioning stuff. I question stuff all the time now. You know, why am I doing that? What's my intentions for doing that? Like, what's my intentions for making coffee in the morning? What's my intentions for, you know, well, if I see a person, like, you know, what am I drawn to in that person? You know, I just try to question everything so that I can keep moving off layers of myself, of the veils, and just be able to see the truth, and to be really real and truthful with myself as well, because a lot of the time we can't do that, so we get angry, or we push stuff away, or, you know, because we just aren't ready to be really real. And that, I think, is when you have the true awakening, because you're really able to see everything for what it is, and you're willing to question everything as well, because when you're not really willing to question stuff, it's like you don't want to see through it. So, you know, if something is true for your ascension, you should be able to question it, because you'll still come out and feel the same about it. But sometimes there's that fear that if you question it, like, if I question this relationship I'm in, and I look at all the concepts, and I look at why I'm with them, you know, am I there because I need them, because I want material stability, because I want children, because I feel like I should settle down at this age, because they look hard, you know, all that stuff is going to wear thin so quickly and be very unfulfilling once it, you know, once all that external stuff has died off. But it's good to question, because then you get to the truth. And sometimes people are afraid of the truth, like they don't want to see the truth if they question it, and that's when you're just not really ready to wake up or wanting to wake up. When you're really wanting to wake up, you're willing to question everything, and you're just able to keep on taking those veils off. And that includes with spirituality, like, you know, why am I doing these things? Are they just to pacify me and to cover up stuff? Are they because I still need to feel like I'm a victim? Or are they because I still need to feel like I can save somebody? Or you know, is there some lust involved here? Like, there's still so much like lust I see in the spiritual community, you know, and flirting and stuff. It's still there, and you know, sometimes it makes me feel really uncomfortable, and because I can see that energy and I can feel that energy and how it's used sometimes even in the spiritual community. And you know, I think that's all it comes down to, is questioning everything, because the more you do that, the more you can start to be real. I know I've repeated that loads of times, but I feel like that's really important. So hopefully I've said everything I need to say, and I'll probably do another video on this in the future. It's a bit more planned, but I just wanted to get a few out there tonight, because I just felt really like I have to share some stuff tonight. So I hope everyone's well.